to give you? Solomon answered, you have shown great kindness to your servant, my father David, because he was faithful and righteous to you and upright in the heart. You have continued this great kindness to him and have given him a son to sit on his throne today. Now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in a place of my father David, but I am only a little child and do not know how to carry out my duties. Your servant is here among the people, so give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and distinguish between right and wrong, for who is able to govern this great people of yours? The Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. And then it goes on to list all the things that God gave him. I can tell you that right now, if I had an opportunity to have anything I ever wanted, it wouldn't be wisdom. In fact, you can make a list of top 10 things, and it probably wouldn't be wisdom. I would like to think that if God said, you can have anything you want, I would choose wisdom. But in reality, being here, I probably wouldn't. Solomon realized the importance of wisdom in being able to have a discerning heart, a stronger mind for God. He understood that without it, he could be the ruler that he wanted to be, and he could be the man that he wanted to be. 3 little things here that he asked for in his prayer for wisdom to God. The first is from the statement, I'm a little child. Solomon wasn't a little child at this point. He was a man. Not only was he a man, but he was a respected man among the courts. But yet, even as a respected man among the courts, having his father David follow his example, he realized his lacking nature. He lacked what he needed to be a good king, and he knew it. First way to make sure we have a wise heart is to realize sometimes we can't do it on our own. We're not going to be able to, most of us, are probably not going to be able to inherit a kingdom from our father. Become a king of a great nation right on the precipice of economic fall, and yet he did. And he felt overwhelmed, and he felt pressured. But all of us are going to be in that situation, where we're given something that's too much for us personally to handle, and we feel stressed about it, we feel overwhelmed. Whether it be through business, whether it be through society, whether it be a family problem, whether it be a personal problem. Something's going to hit us hard in a way that we can't handle it. We can't do it on our own. First way to be able to develop a Christian mind is to understand that's okay, because we have God. I've never started a prayer with, Lord, I'm a little child. But maybe I should. Because it really does show our relationship to God. That even when we're the wisest, the peaking of our bodies here on earth, when we're the wisest, the smartest, the fastest, the strongest, we are nothing in comparison with what God can make us. And we need to realize that. The second statement that he calls is to govern your people. Help me to govern your people. The idea of interacting with others. In the Old Testament, there really wasn't that much of a need for it. You were either a Jew or a Gentile. You were either born into God's elect group and you followed his principles and his characteristics, or you weren't. However, that's not the case in this New Testament religion that we now practice. We have a new set of rules. Anyone can be in God's elect group. And it's our responsibility to go out and meet people. Part of being wise is to understand that we have a purpose in life, and that purpose is to seek and save the lost. It's the same purpose Christ had on his walk here on earth. It's our responsibility daily to interact with people. But it's so easy sometimes not to. I'm a very social person. Naturally, that's just who I am. I love talking to people. I love talking. But there's some times in which I just don't. Where God sets an opportunity up for me. Someone who's curious about God. Maybe needs God, wants God. And I have a chance of being that leader to step up to the plate and help, and I don't. Why? So maybe it's because I'm tired and I just don't feel like interacting with people. Maybe it's because I feel scared, that I don't know all the answers. Maybe it's because I'm embarrassed, or ashamed, or scared. But as Christians, that's our responsibility. Part of being a Christian is understanding that there's going to be times when we have to step outside of our comfort zone for God. We live in this box of what's comfortable, what's real to us, what we think we're good at, and we like to stay in here. God doesn't ask us to stay in here. He asks us to grab his hand and step out and see what he can make you. As Christians, maybe that's where we need to step out. Being able to interact with people more thoroughly. Being more of an example of our Christian faith to those around us. Being able to talk about God. The third way he shows wisdom, the third way he asks to show wisdom, is to discern between good and evil. In the Old Testament, there was a pretty strict checklist. Don't do this or this happens. Don't do this or this happens. In the New Testament, Christ says, yeah. Here's the checklist, but here's what I'm making you do. And we live by a different standard. We live by intent, by motive, by placement of the heart and mind. That's more difficult to live by. It's easy to say, don't kill someone. Not many of us are going to be in a situation in which we're wanting to kill someone. However, many of us are going to be in a situation when we're angry for really no reason. When we're mad or we spout off. When we say something that's hurtful. Christ says that's wrong. Christ says it's no longer about your actions, but now it's more about your intent, your heart, your soul. Where is it at? Solomon realized that in order for him to be a wise Christian, to have this Christian mind, he needed to understand what was good and what was bad. What influences would bring him towards God, what influences wouldn't. He understood the reasoning for that. We all have a moral compass. Being able to stick to it sometimes is more difficult, especially when the temptations get bigger, grander. We need to be able to have that discerning heart to know what's good and what's wrong. The second example offered us in the Bible on how to get a heart and mind that is of Christ is to have a can-do, not can't-do mentality. In literature, in English, there is something called a self-defeating statement. I'm going to look at my notes here to make sure I don't get this wrong. There's 3 rules of a self-defeating statement. One is every statement sets a requirement of acceptability for its intent. To say all dogs are mammals, that is a statement. To say all tomatoes are fruit is a statement. The second is place itself in the way of the meaning of the sentence. Whenever you say something like, okay, tomato is a fruit, but many people, including experts, think it's a vegetable, all of a sudden, your purpose has been completely lost. You tried to say it, it's a fruit, but then you started saying other things that made people think, well, is it? I don't know. As Christians, we oftentimes have that kind of approach to our Christian walk. Well, I'm going to be a good Christian, but I can't do this, or this, or this, or this. I'm really only comfortable with this. One element. That's a self-defeating statement. We've limited ourselves so much on our Christian walk. That's a can't-do mentality. Probably the best example of a can't-do mentality is found in Exodus chapter 4. God needs a leader. His people are trapped in Egypt. He needs someone to be able to step up, and he finds the man he knows can be one of the best leaders in all of the Old Testament. His name's Moses. And God calling Moses, this is Moses' response. Verse 10, Moses said to the Lord, O Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. God sees Moses being a patriarch, a leader of the Jewish culture. An icon. Someone that's going to be looked up for generations for his greatness. But Moses didn't see that himself. He made an excuse. Well, God, I'm not exactly good at that. Maybe you could use me in a different way. Maybe, God, if I may, I would like to work in this field, not really in the whole leading thing. Maybe I'm better behind the scenes. God's response is this in verse 11. The Lord said to him, Who gave man his mouth? Who makes him deaf or mute? Who gives him sight or makes him blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak, and will teach you what to say. Moses would continue to put up a fight. But at the end of the day, that's the most important part. Who is it that made man talk? Who is it that made man? It's God. When God puts something on our plate, and we come up with a can't-do attitude, where we're like, well, I can't do this. I can't do this. You're probably right. You can't. But God can. As Christians, we are given a wonderful opportunity of a can-do lifestyle. Everything can be done. Not by our own strength. Oh, goodness, no. But by God's strength. And we need to partake in that, believe in that, and strive for that. What victories can God do in your life? What areas can God change? How much better of a person can He make you? If you just let Him in. The third and final way to be able to get this wonderful Christian perspective is outlined for us